We the People. Monday, February 24, 2014, 9:56 a.m. Sitting here at my desk, I think it's fair to say that I'm feeling pretty miserable. I've been that way since Saturday night. As soon as I saw Justine and Ian, I knew I had to contrive a way of slipping out of the SB as quickly as was reasonably possible. For a start, my heart felt like it was going to explode out of my chest, like some sort of incubated alien. I was also feeling quite light-headed. Silvio noticed that I wasn't looking well and asked if I was okay. "Yeah, mate, just getting old. Not used to going out," I said, laughing. "And I tell you what, my ears have taken quite a hammering." I made a show of sticking my finger into my left ear. We were still shouting to be heard, even with no music playing, and I was losing my voice. Nowadays it always goes hoarse in such situations, and annoyingly, it starts squeaking unpredictably too. "Silvio," I shouted, leaning in, "I'm going to call it a night. I'm meeting some friends tomorrow morning, so it's an early start for me." Those are the squeaks. "But the band has another set." "You'll be fine now. Take the controls. You know what to do." I patted him on the back, and he gripped my hand as I rose. "See you on Monday, my friend," I shouted, trying to look as relaxed and amiable as I could. I crossed the stage and pushed my way through the crowd, making a beeline for Branca, who was in the midst of what seemed like a conspiratorial conversation with Jennifer Caldwell. They stopped talking as I drew near and greeted me with smiles. "I don't know what you did, but the sound was so much better. You didn't tell us you were into music." "Oh, I am a little," I said. Then I abruptly extended my hand for Branca to shake. She frowned, brushed it aside, leaned in and gave me a kiss on both cheeks, followed by a quick hug. "You're leaving already?" she asked. "I'm afraid so. Would you believe I have an early start? I'm meeting some old friends for breakfast. Haven't seen them in years." "Oh." She tilted her head, with her lips turned down like an emoticon. "Are you sure you can't stay a bit longer?" "No, really. I'm rubbish if I don't get my sleep," I said. Even the part about needing to sleep was mostly a lie. As you've probably gathered, I sleep surprisingly little. I shook Jennifer's hand and waved to both women as I began retreating. Branca reached out to stop me. "Have you said goodbye to Justine?" "No, I can't see her anywhere." Branca's eyes flickered momentarily, scanning the corner where I last saw Justine with Ian, but I pretended not to notice this. "Say goodbye from me, will you? See you guys on Monday." So here I am on Monday. Silvio hasn't said any more about the Ian and Justine issue, and I think it wise to leave it alone as well, even though it is crowding me with so many confused thoughts and emotions that if I could broadcast what was inside my head, I'm pretty sure all you'd hear is white noise. By contrast, Silvio is still pumped up about the gig. When I came in, he was effusive in his praise about my help at the desk. He reminds me of my younger self, back in the days when I was experimenting with Frank. A host of new jobs have been allocated to me, and I've had a briefing about them. Some are quite complex. Oh well, maybe this work will keep my mind off stupid things like pointless infatuation. I sigh and open the file that I've asked Silvio to bring to me, but almost immediately I start to look out of the window into the hazy sunshine. From this height, the cars look like scurrying ants, and the noise of the traffic is a low rumble. Height gives you a sense of perspective, so does time. Basically, I now know I've been a total fool. I'm not sure what even made me assume that Justine was single. Heck, I'm not single, at least not technically. I should have guessed that Justine would be seeing someone suitably good-looking, charismatic, high-powered and rich. Ian ticks all these boxes. Even I can say he had me at hello. And it is quite apparent that Justine is a master of diplomacy. She negotiates every social environment with aplomb. I've confused this with some sort of potential interest. Thinking about it objectively, I can't imagine why I thought I might be on her romantic radar. I'm just some random nervous, albeit reasonably decent chap, who she met in Perth, and with whom she now happens to work. Be nice to the poor fellow. It seems he needs it, is probably what she's thinking. Put metaphorically, if Justine were the proverbial princess guarded by a dragon, I'd be nothing more than one of the hundreds of skeletons of would-be suitors that littered the route to her tower. And for the benefit of Anita Sarkeesian, that dragon would be her pet, not her captor. I can see quite clearly that any knight managing to reach her, never mind sweep her off her feet, would have to have the sort of intellect, good looks, charisma, and physical prowess, not to mention wealth and power, that I will never have. It all seems obvious now that she would be dating someone like Ian McCrae. So I don't really know why I was so surprised to see that they were an item. It must have been the age disparity. I suppose I imagined that Ian would be married, with teenage kids, a large house in the suburbs, a country retreat, private school fees to pay, and European vacations to arrange, ones where he could take pictures of himself sipping wine with his glamorous wife in Provence, teaching his kids to ski in the Swiss Alps, or taking his whole family yachting in the Aegean. "Hello, Dan." I'm startled and whirl around from the window. Justine is standing in my doorway with a steaming mug of something, coffee, tea, whatever, I don't know. "Oh, hi there, Justine. You ran off on Saturday night without even saying goodbye." Sorry about that. I couldn't see where you were. I just had to get home. Seeing friends the next day, you know." I laughed nervously. "So, how was it?" How was what?" "Seeing your friends, of course. Branka said you had breakfast with them." That. Oh, that was great. Marvellous, actually. You know, old high school buddy. He's married now. He's got kids. Planning a trip to Europe, Provence, Switzerland, the Aegean. My voice trails off as I continue to mumble. I swear I don't even remember what else I said. Now, she takes a step or two into my office and lowers her voice. "I must tell you something. I was so impressed by what you did at the gig. I could tell Tsar was out of his mind after the first set. He didn't know what to do. It seems poor Silvio was copying it from him. My little brother has quite a temper when he's stressed. But then you came along and fixed everything." She clicks her fingers, like that. "Well, it wasn't much. I only adjusted the EQ, you know. Panned some things, pulled some faders. The SM57 isn't really good for vocals, that kind of thing." I'm rambling now. I do that when I get nervous, as I think you know. Justine is so tactful she pretends not to notice. "Whatever it was, you have the boys thinking you use some sort of black magic. I had no idea you went into sound engineering. Do you play an instrument?" She takes a sip from her mug. I note that, somewhat incongruously, it is more of a slurp. "No, not really. I mean, I used to, a bit, with my uncle. He studied sound engineering, you see, and I used to do some work with him." "Ah, your mysterious uncle again. Obviously he was a man of many talents, as are you, clearly." She gestures at me, and the smile curls one corner of her lips. I normally appreciate flattery, but in this case it's making me squirm. "Now what's this I hear about you having your own recording studio? Is this true?" She steps even further into my office and pulls up one of the two guest chairs and eases into it like a panther. "You got Tsar all fired up about it, I can tell you." "Yes, it's true." I swallow. I'd forgotten what I'd told the band. In the cold light of day, it looks like a major miscalculation. I'm pretty sure Frank keeps the existence of his studios a total secret, for very good reasons. A lack of building approval is probably the most obvious. I start feeling the beads of sweat welling in my scalp as I realize that my boasting has led me perilously close to disaster. "Really? Where?" Justine's eyes are wide in wonder. It's only a home studio, you know, nothing to write home about. My friend has one. The house I'm staying in, it's in his basement. I haven't even tried it. I probably shouldn't have mentioned it, really. I mean, it might not even work." I laugh nervously. "I'm sure it does. Say, would you mind awfully if the boys came round and at least talked to you? They're really keen. Desperate, actually. Justine does this thing where she looks up and cross-eyed at the same time when she wants to indicate exasperation. I've noticed it a few times. I think they have real talent, but the problem is they don't really know what they're doing at all. Well, I suppose, we could have a chat. Could you? Because you've left an impression on them, Justine says. She puts her mug down on my shelf and sighs deeply. You know, Zar has done nothing but concentrate on his music career since he left high school. For 2 years he spent almost every day practicing. Do you know, he actually plays 3 different instruments. But since he can't find someone who can play the drums the way he wants, he's doing that. Anyway, for all his efforts, he doesn't seem to be making any headway at all. But I'm not surprised. It's aimless, really. Gigs are planned and then get cancelled, or they are disasters like Saturday's one nearly was. She leans in and says earnestly, I get the feeling he needs someone to guide him a bit, not only in the marketing side, but in the actual music production. The problem is he just won't listen. Saturday night was the first time I've ever seen him defer to anyone. He normally thinks he knows everything. She leans back again. The band has come so close to breaking up many times. I'm surprised that Bart and Seb put up with him, really. I don't know if I can do anything. I can see I'm making you uncomfortable. No, not at all. You forget, she raises a finger and an eyebrow. We women pick up little details. I can tell I'm being too familiar. It's my biggest fault, really. I'll try to be more respectful. I'm so sorry. I'll get out of your hair now. She starts to rise. No, don't be silly. I motion for her to sit down. I don't want to get their hopes up. I'm a lawyer, not a sound engineer, and I feel I've overplayed my hand a bit. Boasting, you know. It never ceases to get me in trouble. Look, they're welcome to come around. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. I'm smiling, but I'm also swallowing. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. It was her reference to being too familiar that got me hook, line, and sinker. She might as well be Derren Brown as far as I'm concerned. I'm like putty in her hands. You're too kind. She puts her hand on mine briefly. I can't tell if I'm being manipulated or not. She seems so genuine. I have to keep telling myself not to get drawn in. As long as they don't expect too much. I tell you what, you're in Princess Hill, aren't you? Yes, that's right. Well, I'm picking up Zar from TAFE in Carlton North on Friday night at 7:30. How about we bring pizza over and we can have a chat, maybe get some pointers, and we can see this studio of yours. I'm also curious about this palace you live in. Something makes me think she hasn't cleared this with Zar at all, but I find myself saying, don't worry about the pizza. I'll make peperonata. It's peppers stuffed with rice and mince. I do it in the Balkan way. We call it pugnene paprike. You and Zar can come for dinner. We really wouldn't want to impose. No, really, I love to cook. No big deal, just come on over. Friday gives me plenty of time. There's only me and Bugsy. Who is Bugsy? My cat. Oh, you mentioned your cat before. Did you bring him from Perth? Yes, poor devil. Had to fly in a cage. He seems to have recovered. Of course, I have no idea how cats travel on aircraft. For all I know, they go in with the baggage and emerge for collection on the conveyor belt, although I doubt it. I really should learn not to lie so much, especially when I'm bad at it. Well, your kind offer for dinner is accepted. At that moment, Silvio appears at the door. Just, I have Ian on the phone. I said I thought I heard your voice and put him on hold. Shall I tell him you're here? No, please don't. Say I left a few minutes ago and that you don't know where I've gone. I'm not up to it right now. Do you mind? Anything for you, says Silvio, who smiles, and I see him go back to his desk, where he lifts his receiver, presses a button, and starts talking quietly. I'm so sorry about that, said Justine quietly. I better go. The boss and I, well, let's just say things are a bit complicated. I don't want to offload my troubles onto you. I can only nod in reply. She touches my hand again and rises to go. Thank you so much for your kind invitation. We can catch up before then anyway. No problem, Justine, I say. She grabs her mug, waves, and is gone. Moments later, Silvio comes into my office. Everything okay, boss? Yeah, sure. Hey, Silvio, can you fill me in on what's happening here? Do you mean with Justine and Mr. McRae? Yes, buddy, exactly that. Do you really want to know? I think I'd better, so I don't put my foot in it, if for no other reason. Good point. Well, what are you doing for lunch? I don't know. On Friday I just wandered up and down Burke Street till I bought a sandwich. I know a little cafe round the corner. Let's sit there, and I'll tell you what I know. You can buy. Deal. 1:05 p.m. First off, I've got to tell you I have to be very careful. Mr. McRae is my employer. I have to watch what I say. Silvio is picking at a Caesar salad. We followed Burke Street down to the Docklands, to a place called the Watermark, which isn't where Silvio wanted to go, but I'm buying, and this place was more conversation-friendly. There are hardly any patrons in here, and we're seated in a prime position by the giant glass windows overlooking the murky waters of the Yarra. As I listen to Silvio, I'm trying to ignore the glare from the white, glossy linen table cover and full range of mirror-polished cutlery. It's really a restaurant, not a cafe, and the prices reflect this. $23 for a Caesar salad, $27 if you want chicken, spelt just with a K, added. Anyway, it provides the right level of privacy, and it serves Italian food, which I quite like. Silvio, who is Italian, says it's fairly authentic too. Understood, mate. Everything you tell me is top secret. I'm having the seafood linguine. Silvio puts a fork into his mouth and starts speaking immediately. I also owe it to Juss. She got me the job. His voice is slightly muffled. No worries. So you have split loyalties. Okay. What's the deal with McRae? He was coming on a bit strong to Justine on Saturday. Zah looked like he wanted to deck the guy, although I seriously doubt he could have. The boss isn't exactly a pushover. No, he isn't. Silvio shows me his bicep and then doubles the diameter with his cupped hand to indicate musculature. He's a strong bloke, is McRae. I believe it. Hot for an older guy, too. Not my type, but I could be persuaded. For some reason it hadn't occurred to me that Silvio was gay. I suppose he doesn't exactly broadcast it. From what I saw on Saturday, he wouldn't be worth it, mate. No, that's the thing. He's all sweet and friendly at first, but he can be dangerous. How so? Well, it's not like he goes out of his way to be nasty. It's more like it's always about him. I don't think he sets out to use people, but if he has to, he doesn't seem terribly troubled by it. Basically, his main problem is that he's a liar. He lies all the time. You never know where you stand. It's all mind games. So Justine is mad at him because he lied to her? Bingo, says Silvio, and he points his fork at me. That's exactly what happened. He said he left his wife and it was all over. Before, he and his missus had the whole happy rich family thing going. The house in the hills, kids almost grown up, country club membership, big wine cellar, all that. When I joined the firm a year ago, everything was picture postcard perfect. And then what? I don't know. Ian came into my office one day and announced to some people that he and his wife were splitting up. Of course, everyone else knew by the end of the day. I think he'd had an affair. Anyway, a month later he was with Justine. Oh, and they're still together? Well, here's the funny thing. He said that he and his wife were finished, right? But don't quote me because it's only what I've heard from second-hand sources, Just finds out that he and his wife have been going to counselling, and they've spent a weekend together at their country house. Oh, I see. No, it gets worse. Ian denies it. He says they were just being civil over the Christmas period, that it was just to appease his parents. But Justine won't believe him. Anyway, she gave him the flick, and McRae won't accept it, so he keeps bugging her to take him back. So that was what was happening on Friday? You said it, mate. He keeps hounding her. It's hard, though, because he's the boss. Just's life has just become a misery, trying to stay out of McRae's way. And she's such a sweet girl. I've known her since I was in early high school. Back then I had a crush on Zar, but after that we became friends. Anyway, I was always at his house, which is Justine's house. She looked after him. There was only the two of them. They did it really hard. She was like a very young single mum. You're kidding, right? No, afraid not. What happened to the parents? Died in a car crash back in 2000. Zara was only 4. Justine was in her second year at uni. She raised them ever since. Christ. I know. Silvio is munching on his salad and raising his eyebrows. She was like a mum and a dad. Did it all on her own. She's still looking after him now, even though he's a bit of a sport brat. For example, he got stuck into me something awful at that gig, throwing a tantrum about the sound. I tell you, I was so glad you came along. It took the heat off me. He was all like, "The fungus people are here, and you've stuffed it all up." Silvio relates this as if he's Tsar, and Tsar's crying. He's very talented, and he can be a good friend. It's just sometimes he forgets to be. Then there's... I won't get into that. Anyway, he has issues, and Justine's trying to, well, she's managing them. So where are things at with Ian and Justine? I saw them hugging on Saturday. Apparently, yet another goodbye hug. But don't quote me. Justine says she just can't trust him. He keeps begging for another chance. The inside word is that he's now moved back into his wife's house. I think he doesn't want to divorce and lose half of everything. But at the same time, he's totally infatuated with Just. Pretty sad, isn't it? You're not wrong. Can I give you some advice, Dan? I don't think I could stop you. Be careful. Be very, very careful. Ian McRae will be your best friend, but if you get in the way, he won't hesitate to crush you. I've heard of him doing it. He's got the money and he's got the means. If he sees you're after Justine, he won't hesitate. Who said I was after Justine? Silvio stops eating and regards me with a wry smile. You can try to fool yourself, buddy, but you can't fool me. Oi, careful. I'm your boss, remember? I say, laughing. He's got me pegged. But then again, I was always pretty transparent. The more I talk to Silvio, the more I like him. 1:54 p.m. As we walk back into the office, I say, Say, Silvio, do you play an instrument? Yes, I do. Trumpet, trombone, and horn, all 3. Brass, that's my thing. Why haven't you joined Tsar's band? Brass? In a pop-punk band? Are you kidding? You'd be surprised. I'm starting to have an idea. The Models and the Saints had brass, not to mention the Hunters and Collectors, who weren't punk, but still. If we have a recording session at my place, Silvio, would you be in it? You mean, would I help you record? Yes, and maybe even play, if we need some brass. For sure. Don't know if Zal will be okay with the last part, but I enjoy the sound stuff. Okay, then I'll keep you posted. We were walking through the rotunda at McMahon's building, and Silvio suddenly says, Cool watch, by the way. Where did you get it? I've been admiring it all lunchtime. He's pointing at my mirror image analog. It's a long story, Silvio. Let's just say it's a relic of my sound engineering days. You know where I can get one? I love oddball things like that. I'll keep a lookout for you, buddy. I make a mental note to make a copy of the watch for Silvio. Maybe I'll do it for his next birthday, whenever that might be. 7:15 p.m. I throw my keys on the counter. Bugsy has jumped up on it too and is meowing. He's hungry and irritated. I've been away too long, and I'm not letting him out of the house until he knows his home well enough. I pour some cat biscuits and spoon some canned fish into his bowl, loosen my tie, and walk down to the studio where I open Outlook. I have to remember to forward the emails from this account to my phone. I might miss something from D1. It's not long before I see a message is being received. Once it's downloaded, I open it. Hey D2, I'm in KL now, sitting in the hotel room. I've hooked up to wireless so I can send you this message. Listen, dude, you have to be more careful. I didn't know you were going to send me an SMS. Let's just say it was a plain, old-fashioned disaster. Kylie picked up my phone and decided to snoop through my messages. Needless to say, she found yours at the top of the list. I'm thinking of you. What the fuck? Dude, don't write shit like that to yourself. I don't know how, but I managed to convince Kylie it was some random text and not a secret girlfriend. It helped that I was able to show that I didn't have anyone with your number in my list of contacts. And D2 doesn't sound like a girl's nickname, unless you think R2D2 was a girl. But next time be careful, for Christ's sake. Anyway, I thought you'd like this message we got at work from Dixon. You know how he passed a rule that we can't chat at work? Well, someone made the mistake of copying him into an email exchange that had some jokes. So now he wants to clamp down on that. He got Justin to audit all our email use, and ever the micromanager, he produced this little gem of a policy memo. Dear staff, please note, emails should be kept to a minimum. They can be disruptive of the recipient's attention and wasteful of the sender's time, particularly when they are longer than 2 lines and take time to craft. However, the above warning applies equally to short emails, especially if they are sent in quick succession. A volume of such emails can make up for the brevity. For example, 20 emails of 1 line will be as long as 1 email of 20 lines, except that if you open 1 email, it takes less time than opening 20, and replying with 20 emails is also problematic. Having talked myself around, I can now conclude that in fact 20 emails of 1 line are probably more disruptive than 1 email of 20 lines. All of this should be noted for future reference in the interests of productivity and ensuring that a consistent morale is maintained. Thank you, Abraham Dixon. Send me a reply by email, only while I'm in KL. International roaming rates are too high. Catch you later. Oh, and I'm thinking of you, dickhead. D1. I shut down Outlook and I'm about to head upstairs. My Kitchen Rules is starting soon. But then I look at the vocals booth and decide to do something rather odd. I open Profile Generator 3.2 and start the process for making a backup copy of myself, just as Frank suggested. I don't know why. I suppose I'm starting to listen to him. Maybe if I'd listened to him sooner, my life would be simpler and better. He was at least partly right. You can move to Timbuktu if you want, but if you don't change yourself, you won't change your life. Okay, my troubles here are different in many ways, yet in others they haven't changed 1 iota. I'm still going to bed tonight with a heavy mind and a heavy heart. This can't be right. Something's got to give.